Dormitory schools in the country seem to have more than just the school curriculum to study. A completely new lifestyle is theirs to grapple with. And in sports, the Cameroon basketball women's team today beat Kenya 74-50 in their opening game of the 2021 AfroBasket tournament in Cameroon. Our top stories. Good evening. I am Benin Bumagana. This is the 7:30 news.
We must remain vigilant and mobilized, for this rapidly changing health crisis is still around. Together, we must resolutely continue the crucial phase of the fight against this virus through vaccination.
Once again, good evening. A 1.5 billion agreement has been signed by the steering committee of the presidential plan for the reconstruction and development of the Northwest and Southwest regions with some religious institutions. This will enable the reconstruction of schools and classrooms destroyed during the socio-political crisis in the two regions. Christian Cheatam looks at the road to be covered if the plan must succeed in its mission of reconstructing the two regions.
The third steering committee of the presidential plan for the reconstruction and development of the Northwest and Southwest regions revealed that the year 2020-2021 was dedicated to laying the groundwork for the successful implementation of the initiative. This, officials say, was done through peace-building messages on radio and sociocultural activities. They equally noted that concrete work started with the signing of a 1.5 billion agreement with some religious organizations to permit them rebuild their schools. As the plan enters its second year of implementation, it will be important for visible projects which touch the lives of the population to be multiplied.
We are definitely sure that in 2021-2022, this upward trend is going to continue. I think all the signs are there. There's no doubt that this current academic year is going to be a much better one.
For the implementation to be effective, the issue of financing will also have to be solved. 10.4 out of the about 90 billion francs required has already been mobilized.
The financial contribution of our partners consolidates what many of them have already said or taken as position. No partner of Cameroon has supported the separation of Cameroon, not a single one.
The presidential plan for reconstruction and development of the Northwest and Southwest represents hope for the many who have lost property and have nowhere to go in the two regions.
854 Nigerian ex-fighters and associates of Boko Haram who have been on transit at the Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration Center in Meri in the far north region have been repatriated. This follows an accord between Cameroon and Nigeria. Governor Mijiyawa Bakare reaffirmed the common stance of heads of states of both countries to welcome the penitents from the terrorist sect and to reintegrate them into society. Details with Ayuk John Ashu.
It is a milestone in the disarmament, demobilization and reintegration process as 854 Nigerian ex-combatants and associates of Boko Haram bid farewell to Cameroon, which has been their home since their rendition. As the governor of the Far North region, alongside top defense and security staff supervised their departure, he reiterated the resolve to implement the recommendations of the recent Abuja security meeting in the fight against terrorism.
We have been instructed by our high ranking to take all necessary measures to accompany them to their native land. I met the governor, Baba Gana Zulum, in Abuja, and together we discussed, and we took resolution to send them back.
Meanwhile, on behalf of the governor of Borno State, the commissioner for education saluted the personal commitment of the Cameroonian head of state in his hand of fellowship to those willing to voluntarily surrender.
I would like to use this opportunity to thank His Excellency President Paul Biya and Madam Chaltan Biya for the brotherhood exhibited by Cameroon to Nigeria in this context.
From Mora, the convoy was escorted to Banki on the Cameroon-Nigerian border, where the 244 men, 215 women and 395 children were officially handed over to Nigerian authorities.
And following an outbreak of COVID-19 cases at the Bamenda Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration Center, the new coordinator Henry Kum-Echu has instructed for massive testing. He has also advised the former separatist fighters to be inoculated. Let's hear more from you, Kilo Valerine Sara.
The Bamenda Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration Center, Kum-Henry Echu, takes over from Sixtus Gapsa as the second ever coordinator of the structure since its creation on November the 30th, 2018 by a presidential decree.
We should not be killing ourselves with arms. We are not animals. Let us be able to dialogue. I appeal to them who are carrying guns to leave the guns down and come to the DDR centers.
The new coordinator, a teacher by profession, is from Befang, Menchum Division of the Northwest, and previously served as the financial agent of the institution. He assumes office at a time there is an outbreak of the COVID-19 in the center, with 18 COVID cases detected in the past days.
The medical staff is already giving them medical attention, and we are also taking measures to see that, if you notice, all of them have their face masks on.
The Bamenda Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration Center currently hosts 120 persons, mostly former separatist fighters from the restive Northwest region.
There's more condemnation coming in on the barbaric actions carried out by some civilians on police officers. The Observatory for Societal Development, a non-governmental organization, in a statement has called on perpetrators to be law-abiding citizens with Republican values rather than promote anarchy. Let's hear more.
Are you a citizen when you go and attack those people who are supposed to protect you? And if those people decide to fold their arms and ignore what is happening around them, are we going in a strong society, or are we going to anarchy and chaos? We are just trying to raise the attention of people so that they understand that something is happening and that thing is not good. All of us, we should understand that we cannot continue to accept that what is the core of our society, what is the shield of our society, should be always attacked.
The Minister of Secondary Education, Professor Naloval Yunga, has met with some principals of some government bilingual schools in Douala, where she has insisted that the collection of funds for admissions into Form 1 is forbidden and that PTA levies should not exceed 25,000 francs. Let's hear more from Cynthia Etim in Douala.
The meeting with principals of bilingual secondary schools in Douala comes after multiple complaints about the school administrations who demand huge sums before the enrollment of pupils into Form 1, Lower Sixth, 6th and Premier. The 5,000 francs requested by some principals for an aptitude test for Lower Sixth learners was also strongly decried by the Secondary Education Board.
Such a practice is corrupt, and it prevents some children from pursuing a meaningful future.
Another bone of contention which the minister and her accompanying delegation addressed was the exorbitant PTA levies collected by some school authorities. It was reiterated that no PTA levy should exceed 25,000 CFA francs, and all officials who had hitherto made collections that surpassed the sum were instructed to reimburse the balance to parents and guardians.
Students seeking admission do not have to pay any other fee.
The move aimed at eradicating corruption in the secondary school milieu will be intensified nationwide.
And as the 2021-2022 school year drags on steadily, the newsroom focuses on the life of students in boarding schools. Gerard Nanji visited one of the boarding schools in Yaoundé and shows us what life is like for those kids. His report.
Namundo, a lower seed art student of this boarding school situated at Oja, outskirts of Yaoundé, is used to dormitory life.
Whenever I wake up, first thing I pray, we get up, I arrange my bed, I take my bath, then prepare for school. On Saturdays, so I have a more free time, so I can clean our dormitories. I've been enjoying classes in history. We started with the African history, like the abolition of slave trade. I miss my parents and I feel like going back home.
Just beneath is the floor that hosts the boys' dormitory. It is life as usual.
Life here is good. It's more different than the way it used to be in the house.
At the same time, students of examination classes are receiving lessons just like on weekdays. Here, it is breakfast time at the refectory, a moment to relax over a cup of tea and bread. In all of these, the school principal is on routine supervision.
After this place, we have to train learners who will be able to fit in the society. Like the technical students, they do intensive practicals in electricity. How if there's some technical issues on campus, they try to look into that.
The students you see here are not on punishment. They are rather engaged in a voluntary clean-up exercise.
You're watching the 7:30 news on the CRTV. The Chinese company in charge of the construction of the new National Assembly headquarters, Beijing Urban Construction Group, has donated didactic material to the government primary school at Temenge, hosting 450 pupils from the Gendarmerie Mobile School in Yaoundé. The gesture, applauded by the General Controller at the Quaestor's Office of the National Assembly, Abba Minor, is intended to ease the plight of parents and institutions at the start of the school year. Esther Kima has details.
Forced to move to the government primary school at Temenge since January 2020, when works began on the new National Assembly edifice. On the piece which hosted their school, these 450 pupils are being aided. The Beijing Urban Construction Group and SIRP Engineering throw their weight on the accommodation efforts.
Because these materials can help our kids to well study in their daily life. They use these materials every day.
The National Assembly General Controller at the Quaestor Service, Abba Minor, hails the move, equally acclaimed by the education community.
I thank them very much because that donation will help our pupils to better perform in their different classrooms.
There is a big challenge for them, materials. At school we have lack of material, but with this we can work better and have a success.
Out of the 900 enrolled in the school created in 1954, the 5 best pupils in all classes of the 3 groups were also awarded prizes for outstanding performance.
Government has increased the guarantee fund to enable small and medium-sized enterprises to have greater access to loans. This was the key announcement on the second edition of the Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises Center Day, organized by JICAM. Ewane Pole reports.
Small and medium-sized enterprises organizing Yaoundé. Initiative of the Cameroon Employers Association, JICAM, and it aims at promoting the growth of SMEs in Cameroon.
We have a lot of problems to solve. Financial problem, fiscality problem, environment, tax, also on market.
On the occasion, a convention between MINMESA and JICAM was signed to provide solutions to problems faced by SMEs.
The government managed to raise the guarantee scheme to provide financial access to SMEs. This guarantee has been put to the level of 200 billion CFA francs. On that ground, the 60% of SMEs that are members of the JICAM are also benefiting.
These will help facilitate the acquisition of investment capital for SMEs and guarantee capacity building for entrepreneurs.
Moves to encourage cocoa farmers in Mayomesi in the South region.
L'équipe de Mozambique qu'elle a rencontré au moins 6 fois dans son histoire. Ce sont des frères.
Farmers can get plants for their farms. Beatrice Ngum with the details.
A rural economy oriented towards cocoa farming. After Mesamena in the East region, it's the time to bring the rural populations of Mayomesi in the South on board. The Cocoa Development Corporation has created 10 other hectares of cocoa farm here under the Padija project, the Integrated Development Program for the jar mining area and adjacent border zones.
These farms will have engineers, technicians to work with the farmers. We will install all post-harvest units for quality cocoa seeds.
This modern cocoa plantation will serve as an example for local producers in terms of technical monitoring, irrigation, and plant maintenance.
Here we have a recurrent problem of water. With the dry soils, young plants die. We need to get a solution to this problem.
With the equipment received and the possibilities of training, Padija and Sodekao are sure to have given the producers of Mayomesi what it takes to improve their cocoa production and extend their farms.
Real estate agents in Cameroon have been receiving training to boost the capacity of their staff in solving issues of real estate co-ownership in Cameroon. Clarence Ngay says the training was organized by the Cameroon Real Estate Corporation. His report.
It was with deep satisfaction as these trainees received their attestations after 5 days of intensive hard work. The actors were trained on implementing the mechanism of the law of co-ownership and the challenges of its application. Handing the attestations to the beneficiaries, the Director General of the Cameroon Real Estate, Amadou Sadana, exhorted the trainees to make use of the knowledge acquired in order to solve the problems plaguing the sector.
What is the role of actors in that process? That we find it and we discuss by looking what is wrong and what is not wrong. After that, we check and make some recommendation in order to make things move in the best way.
The training reinforces the law of 2010, which advocates for real estate co-ownership but has hardly been applied. Armed with the acquired skills, the participants are expected to overcome the perennial housing issues in Cameroon.
In matters of health today, Beatrice Losamba tells us about osteoarthritis, a disease which manifests in joint inflammation due to degeneration of the joint cartilage. It affects mostly middle-aged and elderly people and can be treated. Beatrice Losamba.
Osteoarthritis is a disease which manifests when the joint bones wear out, and this degeneration is common from middle age onward.
With aging and increased mechanical overloading at the level of the joints suffer wear and tear with time and gradually become less efficient. Well, the person will start suffering from stiffness, pain, and sometimes swellings around the joints.
The hip, knee, and thumb joints are targets. The problem is most likely to be located by an X-ray.
Apart from using painkillers, sometimes we have to use drugs which are injected directly into the joint. We could have joint replacement therapy where during surgery, the whole joint apparatus is excised for a new one.
The wearing down of protective issues at the end of bones happens gradually and worsens over time. It can last for years or even be lifelong. So it is advised to prevent osteoarthritis altogether.
Prevention of obesity can indirectly reduce the likelihood of someone suffering from osteoarthritis. Regular but gentle physical exercise has been found also as a preventive measure.
Baby steps which could spare the huge complications this degenerative joint disease comes along with.
Africa needs broad and equitable access to the vaccine. Indeed, How can we achieve herd immunity with less than 5% of our citizens currently vaccinated?
We stay in health, but this time let's talk COVID. Baldwin Sama in Kigali, Rwanda, talks with the head of the Cameroonian community in Rwanda on how COVID-19 has affected them and how resilient they have been so far. Hello, Baldwin.
Good evening to you, Benin Bumagana. Consequences of the third wave of the pandemic in Rwanda. Difficult for the Cameroonian community here in Rwanda to go about with activities as it was in the case before the coming of the coronavirus pandemic in Rwanda. Let's find out from our guest tonight, Ugo Mudiki, who is the head of the Cameroonian community in Rwanda, how this pandemic has affected their activities. Good evening to you, Ugo Mudiki.
Yes, good evening.
How was the pandemic, especially the third wave of the coronavirus pandemic in Rwanda, affected your activities in this country?
Yes, thank you. The third wave was really critical for the community here in Rwanda. First of all, we have students who are supposed to have their exams, their final exams. Until now, you have many students waiting for the exams. So the exam has been postponed. So now, for the moment, we are waiting. And especially for the community, we used to have our monthly meeting where we discuss issues relating to the community. And it has been more than a year now without having a physical meeting. So all meetings are only by internet. And you have businessmen, those who have restaurants and others, so they have to follow also those instructions of the government with a curfew at 10 p.m. And also the fact that we have to follow the same instruction given to the whole population.
Thank you so much, Ugo Mudiki, for those explanations. I should say it's a culture of discipline that the Cameroonian community in Rwanda has embraced in order for them to respect the different measures put in place by the government of Rwanda to limit the spread of the coronavirus, especially after the third wave. Back to you, Benin Bumagana.
And thank you, Baldwin Sama van Cayman. Let's go over to the West region where the CPDM Member of Parliament for the Kunki has constructed a modern borehole and donated to the population of Sekakuo Banjun in that division. Chanceline Nanze with details.
After Kaapete, Yom, Pete Center, Kamjong and Keng, it is the turn of Sekakuo. The CPDM Member of Parliament for the Kunki, Honorable Albert Quinche, has again donated an essential element of man's existence, water, to his people, thus accompanying the state to alleviate their sufferings.
It's a political act because of a member of Parliament and doing my job. And not only that, it's a social action I'm doing for the benefit of this population, and I do it with more pleasure.
The inauguration ceremony at the esplanade of the Sekakuo Palace was presided over by the SDO of the Kunki, Jean-Daniel Joboina, who once more saluted the MP for his numerous humanitarian works to the population. The ruler of the village, Chief Etienne Kenye, on behalf of his subjects, expressed gratitude to the donor, who in turn gave to each headmaster present at the ceremony a sum of money to purchase didactic material for their respective schools.
The president of the Regional Coordination Commission for the Renewal of Executives of Basic Organs and Specialized Organs of the CPDM Party for the Center, Rene Emmanuel Sadi, has expressed satisfaction with the conduct of the exercise so far in the Mefu and Akono division. Ebenezer Akanga has been on that beat. Here is the report.
It was the first outing of the president of the Central Regional Coordination Commission for the Renewal of Executives of Basic Organs and Specialized Organizations of the CPDM. Rene Emmanuel Sadi went to Ngumu in Mefu and Akono division to make a midway evaluation of the renewal exercise in the division. Speaking on the conduct of the exercise, the president of the Divisional Control Commission, Senator Nicole Okala-Bilai, said that so far, executives of all the 229 cells and 320 branches in the division have been renewed despite some difficulties faced. Rene Emmanuel Sadi expressed satisfaction with the work done by the electoral commissions.
All those who have been charged with the mission of conducting those operations have done their reports. I've listened very, very closely to what they have said, and I think that everything has gone on quite well.
The renewal exercise will reach its climax in the coming days with the election of executives of subsections and sections.
Our book of the week on the review is Sweet Sorrow by Elvis Banning Njine. Sweet Sorrow is a collection of poems that rekindles hope in every reader in spite of the turbulent moments of pain. Emanuela Vemu read through the poems for us.
The poems are many, from Dream, where every reader is invited to dream big and work towards its realization. Then the challenges of life one is likely to encounter, highlighted through tears of agony, cries of despair and war. The reader is then quickly reminded in the poem My Girlfriend, dry your tears and God forgive us, that love is the universal virtue and should be shown to everyone without a second thought. With the poem The Holy Bible, the guiding principles to living a fulfilled life are outlined. Authored by Elvis Banning, Sweet Sorrow is a reflection of life marked by ups and downs, but which must be lived. With poems like Be a Star, If Men Were Angels, and Time for Loving, the author encourages readers to be the best versions of themselves so that society can be more accommodating. My People, African Woman, Living Witnesses, and a letter to my MP then pays allegiance to fatherland and all therein, while calling on those in power to serve the populace and not make them sweat in vain. Published by Nya Publishers, the book is authored by Elvis Banning, native of Oku Northwest region and a seasoned literature teacher.
Algeria's ex-president Abdelaziz Bouteflika has died at 84. Bouteflika led the country for almost 2 decades before stepping down in 2019 after a massive protest against his bid for a 5th term. His political journey with Constantine Bomb.
Abdelaziz Bouteflika served during the Algerian War as a member of the National Liberation Front. After Algeria gained its independence from France, he served as a Minister of Foreign Affairs between 1963 until 1979. He served as the President of the United Nations General Assembly during the 1974-1975 session. In 1999, Bouteflika was elected President of Algeria in a landslide victory. He would win the re-election in 2004, 2009, and in 2014. As president, he presided over the end of the bloody Algerian civil war in 2002 when he took over the project of his immediate predecessor, President Lamine Zeroual, and ended emergency rule in February 2011 amidst regional unrest. Following his stroke in 2013, Bouteflika made few public appearances throughout his 4th term, making his final appearance in 2017. He resigned on the 2nd of April 2019 after months of mass protest. With nearly 20 years in power, he is the longest serving head of state of Algeria to date and died this September 2021.
Let's talk sports. The national women's basketball team has won their first match of the competition, that is the AfroBasket, 74-50 for Kenya. The basketball Lionesses now occupy the first place of Group A. Highlights with Gilbert Ongene.
Combined. And they get the first.
A tight game at the start with Kenya getting the first points of the encounter at the beginning of the first quarter. The indomitable Lionesses, thanks to Ewodo, Ngeko and teammates, reacted swiftly and took the lead, dominating the first, second and third quarters of the game, 59-37 and 65-35 for Cameroon. The indomitable Lionesses, a good number of them taking part in an international competition for Cameroon for the very first time, took the bull by the horns and beat Kenya 74-50. Head coach Ahmed Bomojoa and his girls now occupy the first place in Group A. Their next match will be against Cape Verde on Monday, September 20 at 5 p.m.
And several hours after the visit of the president of the Confederation of African Football, CAF, Patrick Motsepe, workers of the Majil construction charged with the completion of the Olembe Stadium of assured sports minister, Professor Narcisse Mwele Kombi, that they will work day and night to deliver for the AFCON 2021 Group A matches. Romeo Kenyi with details.